All right. Hello, everybody. All right. Welcome. All the people out there who are from Trans Academy and Helping Hands for our crossover event. Want to make sure some housekeeping things out of the way. We have our interpreter, Polly Swift, who's going to be interpreting for us. So if you need the interpreter, make sure you can see them. They should be available on the stream as well. All right. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, again, I'm kind of informal whenever I do these kind of presentations. I will have to try and keep myself from signing because that is who I am as a person. I have an interpreter here. I don't have to sign. So, hello and welcome to our Helping Hands class, a intro to American Sign Language with a focus on LGBTQIA plus signs, presented by myself, Shade Axis, and Amarant. So, a little bit of background about me, real quick. I am an IRL state certified ASL interpreter. I've been working professionally for 9 years now. I've been signing for about 13. I have 2 degrees, both an associate's in modern languages and an associate's in specifically ASL interpreting. I have experience in a wide range of interpreting situations, mostly education. That is my passion. That is what I love to do, is work with deaf students, deaf kids. That is my favorite thing to do in the world. But I also work in community, and I also do VRS, interpreting on the phones, that kind of stuff. And my pronouns are he, him. I will let Emma introduce themselves, and Polly, I'll go ahead and voice for them if you don't mind. Hello, everybody. Hello. So I am Amarant. I am deaf myself. I grew up deaf. I have sign language as my primary language that I've used since birth. I am really, really excited to be here in VR. I've been here in VR about 2 years ago. And it was just a completely expanding my universe kind of experience whenever I got into VR and found this wonderful community, Helping Hands. I grew up in both the deaf and hearing worlds, deaf myself, but living with hearing people. My family is all hearing, so I grew up with hearing people all around. But I couldn't talk, I can't hear. Hearing aids and cochlears don't really work for me, so I wasn't really able to access any sort of sound that way. But I do use sign language as my primary form of communication. Myself, I am trans and non-binary, and I prefer using she or they. All right, let you go back, Polly. All right, so a quick rundown of the things we're going to be talking about today. Very first thing is going to be Helping Hands, what our community is. Again, thank you guys so much for inviting Helping Hands to come here with Trans Academy. I absolutely love Trans Academy. I love anytime I'm here for any sort of event, everybody is super welcoming and fun. This is a fantastic place to be. I love the world. It's so cool. So I'm super happy whenever I got asked to come and present about Helping Hands so I could tell you guys a little bit about us. And then, so once we're done talking about Helping Hands a little bit, we'll go into actual sign language. Specifically, we'll be talking about American Sign Language, which, if you didn't know, there's multiple sign languages. We'll get to that here in a bit. And then we're going to teach the absolute basics. We're going to teach the ASL alphabet and just a few basic starter signs before we get into actual ASL LGBTQIA plus signs. And at that point, I will actually let Emma take over for that last bit because they are the absolute experts, being both an ASL L1 user, deaf, trans, non-binary, all the things. They're also a linguistic student who studies this kind of thing. I've seen massive amounts of research she's done about queer signs in general. So whenever I was asked to do this, I immediately went, I know exactly who to ask to help me co-present this. One thing I do want to go ahead and put out as a disclaimer right now, just to make sure we're all on the same page and all have common definitions for everything, is the word spectrum. Because everything is a spectrum. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody who is in any form not cisgender. Anybody who's involved in Trans Academy, you understand the spectrum of the entire human existence, basically. So whenever I say specific things about this being this specific sign or this being this specific way, understand that ASL itself is also a spectrum. There are different regional accents, regional dialects. Sign language itself is a spectrum between American Sign Language, British Sign Language, French Sign Language, Korean Sign Language, all sorts of different sign languages. So I just want to make sure that we all have that common knowledge that it is not one specific way, end all, be all. There are multiple ways to sign things. There are multiple regional dialects to things. There are multiple different accents that everybody has. People have their own personalities that they put in signs that change a little bit the way they sign things. But as long as it is acceptable and understandable by the parties who are speaking, it's still classified as sign language and perfectly works. All right. So, a little bit about Helping Hands. This is where all the mutes hang out, right? About that. So we do have. Oh, sorry, we're having a problem with the interpreter. We have a shark that's come in the world. Okay. So we do have people who do have physical or neurological mutism that do use sign language and can use sign language to their benefit. But that's not really our main focus as Helping Hands. We focus more on the deaf and hard of hearing community. The people who this is not just a outward expression of their language, but also receptive. The people who cannot hear as well as cannot speak. Or again, having the spectrum, there are people who are considered deaf and hard of hearing who can hear very well and can speak very well, but they still have that culture and identity of being deaf or hard of hearing. So this is our wonderful little poster. I don't know if you guys had gone to the New Year's Eve party that VR Chat put on, the official world. We had our wonderful poster that was made that we had in that world. So we've got a whole bunch of different random members in there. We have the link to our Discord up at the very top right there, if you can see, very, very small. But our Discord link is very, very easy. It's discord.gg/helpinghands. And then down at the bottom, we have our official VRC group. So if anybody wants to join that, it's hands.0010. And we are a community that focuses on teaching sign language in VR. We started out before I was even in VR, before I even really understood that social VR was a thing. Started out, I believe, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now. And it started with just a few people who were there was some people who were deaf and trying to teach their friends sign language. And some people who were interested, and they decided to just make a little Discord server just to hang out and help teach each other sign language. And that Discord has grown into the point now where we have over 6,000 members. We have teachers who teach American Sign Language, British Sign Language, French Sign Language, Korean Sign Language, Japanese Sign Language, and German Sign Language. Those are the only languages we currently offer. There are many, many other sign languages, but we don't have teachers for those at the moment. In VR, the most popular sign language is American Sign Language. That is the biggest demographic of it. And a lot of people who are just exposed to sign language in VR typically learn American Sign Language just because that's the most popular one. So it continues to make itself grow exponentially. But we do have many, many sign language users of other sign languages. I'm not an expert on those, though, so I will not be teaching anything about them. I consider myself fluent in American Sign Language, considering I've done it professionally now for 9 years. But I will not be even getting close to trying to teach anything about any of the other sign languages because I'm not the expert on those. Not that I'm really an expert on ASL, but better than most. Uh, so a little quick short blurb about deafness and who we are at what we do with Helping Hands is we try and teach both the actual sign language and deaf culture because they are in fact separate. They are very, very deeply intertwined, but they are in fact separate. So we have a quick little blurb here about I'll actually start on the right side. So sign language is a system of communication using hand movements, gestures, facial expressions to convey meaning. That is the stuff you see a lot of people using their hands to talk. In VR, a lot of people who prefer to play with their mics off, the so-called mutes, though we're trying to help spread awareness to try and lessen that term to only be used to people who have the actual diagnosis on behalf of the people who have the diagnosis, wanting us to help spread awareness about their label. The people who do typically play with their mics off, the people who don't want to talk in game typically use sign language to talk. And for them, it's a communication strategy. That's it. It is just a form of communication, just like speaking or using the chat box. What we also try and focus on in Helping Hands, though, is to teach deaf culture. And culture is the shared characteristics and knowledge of a particular group of people that encompasses language, like sign language, but also encompasses religion, cuisine, social habits, music, and art. So we teach sign language, but we also teach deaf culture. We teach about deaf norms. We teach about how deaf people are different than hearing people and how they interact with each other is different than how hearing people interact with each other. Deaf people tend to have different cultural values than hearing people. One of the most common ones that I think as queer people, many of us queer people can relate to, is the deaf community is very collectivist as opposed to hearing people, and specifically in America, I know there are other countries that aren't, but mostly in America, people are very individualist. It is the needs of myself. It is the needs of who I am and what I want. And deaf culture and also queer culture, a lot of time is very collectivist of what we need, what we're going to do. I want to make sure that you are safe because we are together. We are the same. We need to protect each other. We need to be together because the rest of the world is out against us. So we try and teach a lot of how deaf people interact. We also make sure that our sign language classes, this is one of the weird exceptions, and this is also why I brought Amma. We pride ourselves on the fact that we have deaf, culturally fluent, linguistically fluent teachers teaching our classes. The example I always give is if you want to go learn Spanish, would you rather learn Spanish from a person who grew up in Mexico and has been speaking Spanish their entire life? Or would you rather learn sign language from somebody who took a class on it for a couple of years in high school and then is now trying to teach it? They could be a brilliant teacher. That's fair. But there's a lot of these very subtle things that you're going to miss if you don't have a teacher who's L1, their first language is that language. It's the same thing as English. A lot of people who grow up not speaking English and try and learn English really struggle with the rules of English because English is so complicated. And a lot of us English speakers, whenever asked like, "Oh, why are we following that rule? Why did we say it that way?" And we just say because it sounds right. We just have that intrinsic knowledge of knowing that's how it is, that's how it works, even if we can't properly explain it. We know what is right and what isn't. It's the same thing with sign language. A person who grew up with that sign language and is culturally and linguistically fluent has that knowledge to be able to it's this way because it is. That's how the language works. And by learning from those kind of people, you pick up those qualities as well. You learn those habits as you're learning. So we pride ourselves on having deaf, culturally fluent, linguistically fluent teachers teaching our classes. All of our teachers are volunteer. We have a screening process that we do to bring in our teachers, but every single one of them is in very high regards in the community of their ability to teach. So, real quick, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit earlier about the mute and mutism. I forgot I had a slide about this, honestly, otherwise I wouldn't have jumped the gun. Again, I'm very informal when I make these presentations. So whenever we actually say somebody is mute, that typically refers to actual mutism, which I found this wonderful definition: an inability or unwillingness to speak due to physical or psychological causes that requires a medical diagnosis. This is something that is a medical issue and it needs diagnosis by a doctor to be able to label yourself as mute. There are many people, especially in VR, it's how I interact quite often whenever I'm out in public worlds, who do not want to use their mic, do not want to use their voice. They would rather use the chat box, or in my case and many other cases would prefer to use sign language. That is an unwillingness to use voice in game. It is not a medical condition, just a preference. We have quite a few members in Helping Hands who do have physical muteness. They are mute. They have mutism. And they have asked us to help spread awareness about that label and the misuse, especially it's very rampant misuse in VR chat. Just because that's what everybody thinks whenever they say, oh yeah, they're mute. It's because they have their mic off. It's a separate issue. So I wanted to make sure I had a quick little blurb in there. Wanted to make sure I talked about it because, again, we've been asked to help spread awareness about this. But if you're a person who prefers to keep your mic off and not use, and prefers to use sign language in game to communicate, by all means, come on down, come to Helping Hands. We'll teach you all the signs you need to know. Nobody has any issue with you making that choice. It's just the label that we've been asked to help spread awareness about. Okay. Next fun little topic. And I briefly touched on this earlier. So sign language is universal, right? It's just sign language. All the sign language is the same. Not at all. So sign language is completely different all over the world. Again, here in VR chat, we typically use American Sign Language as our main form of communication. It is the most popular sign language in VR. But American Sign Language, as per the name, is really kind of only used here in America, in real life. England, the UK, has British Sign Language. They also have like Irish Sign Language, and they have Scottish dialect of British Sign Language. It's a whole thing over there. And even though our spoken equivalents of the language is the same, we're all speaking English, the sign language is completely different because they developed completely independently of each other, using, most of the time it is from the indigenous people to that area, typically have some sort of sign language that they use that is crossed over with some sort of institutionalized trying to teach deaf children sign language, and has kind of melded and developed organically into the sign language of the region that is then spread. We could have a whole entire lecture about how these things work. But basically all you really need to understand is sign language is different all over the world. Again, I have a quick little thing in there, I think. No, I've only got 5. I've only got 5 of our languages in there. We also now offer Japanese Sign Language. But we have our 6 sign languages that we teach in Helping Hands. However, we want to put the caveat out there that what we teach here in VR and what we use here in VR is not the exact same as what you use in real life. In real life, sign language is much more in depth. Sign language has a great deal of body language and facial expression. Facial expression is immensely important in sign language, which we cannot replicate here in VR. Even with amazing face tracking, you can get a lot further than you could without the face tracking, but it's still not what would be required to use real sign language in the real world. So the people who use sign language in VR, the deaf community who use sign language in VR, have kind of taken their sign language and adapted it to a VR equivalent, a VR port of it. It is an ongoing process. It's constantly new vocabulary pops up, or it's determined that, oh, with the new controllers, this is what we're going to use. And then it's actually still different depending on if you're using something like me who uses Index or someone who uses Quest, which we refer to as general VR. With the set number of hand shapes. And we have an entire system about how to use that to still portray the same meaning. But just wanted to make sure we're all aware that if you go out and whenever I teach you some of these letters here in VR, if you go try and sign them in real life to a deaf person, they will look at you like you've lost your ever-loving mind. Because some things we just can't do in VR. So our VR version is very weird. It's very normal for us, but in real life it is very odd. All right. So following that, if you see somebody signing, what do you do? Oh my God, there's a deaf person. What do I do? Say hi. Talk to him. Chat him up. Many deaf people are used to using some form of writing back and forth or typing back and forth with interacting like little casual conversations with people who do not use sign language. And that's very, very surface level. But if you'd like to actually learn sign language, that's what we're here for. So if you would like to take it upon yourselves to start learning sign language, you've got options. So I've got a quick little list right here of 3 worlds that Helping Hands endorses that we use to help teach sign language. We have Mr. Dummy, Sign and Fun, the Experimental ASL world, and the Experimental Shader Motion world. I have to double check on the Shader Motion world. I think we might have, it might have been like stopped being used. I think we used it while we were recording stuff. Honestly, don't know, double check. Regardless, I would definitely recommend the Experimental ASL world. Mr. Dummy's Sign and Fun is amazing. We have classes that we teach there occasionally. It has lots of other fun things to do. But if you go to the Experimental ASL world, there is a video board with vocab with both videos and an actual 3D shader motion model that you can look at in 3D space to see how these signs are done. And a lot of people tend to congregate there just to hang out. So you can go learn things, and then at the same time, you can go socialize with other people who are learning or practice your sign language with other people who are learning. And while you're in that world, anybody who is a fluent member, a fluent teacher, or a world content creator for Helping Hands has a banner that pops up over their head. So you know who to talk to if you have a question. So I definitely recommend the Experimental ASL world, but the other worlds are also perfectly wonderful for self-paced learning. Go at your own pace, figure out what you want to do, look up specific vocabulary words, all that stuff. But we also have lessons taught by our volunteer teachers. We have our Discord, which I had the link for it up there earlier. Once you join in the Discord, you can look at our class schedule channel that we have. It has the class schedule broken down by day. And it is, I believe it's Monday through Sunday is the way, or maybe it's Sunday through Saturday. I can't remember exactly what day it starts on. But the schedule is typically the exact same every single week. There really is no variance unless one of the teachers needs to change something. So even if, you need to take a class on Tuesday and, it's Thursday, you can look at the Tuesday posting, and you'll still be able to know what time class is the following week. So whenever you look at the schedule, figure out what time works for you, you can check the events tab, which is where the teachers will post the invite link. Go on there, click the link, it opens up the website, click invite me. Everybody knows how to join instances basically at this point, but that's where we post ours. If you miss a class or you just want to go back and watch previous classes, we also have the class archives. Where we have our archivists who, whenever they can, they go to these classes and they record them and upload them to a YouTube channel. And they get posted in the archive class, and the class archives channel. So you can look there and watch these old classes if you'd like to. Our classes typically focus on a specific lesson. We have different vocabulary lists that are pre-built into these worlds that a lot of teachers like to use and follow and teach. I'm going to teach lesson 24, which is food. I don't know. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But they teach that specific list of signs and teach that vocabulary. We have some teachers who prefer to make their own vocabulary list. We have worlds that allow you to type in your own vocabulary list. So some teachers decide they want to make their own list and they'll pick a specific topic saying, hey, I want to do this. One sec. Polly, are you good? It looks like you're lagging. Are you good? Just want to make sure the interpreter is good. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure we have our communication going. Okay. So our teachers will say, hey, this week I'm teaching about school subjects, and is going to make an entire vocabulary list of different school subjects and school related vocab, and we'll teach that, and they'll post that in the link. We have certain teachers who want to focus on grammar, and they'll teach their own classes of grammar. You just look and see who fits your schedule, who fits your kind of class you want to, and go take an actual class taught by an actual person. Again, all of our volunteer teachers are fluent in whatever language they are teaching, so you can trust them as knowing their stuff. Our rules for class attendance are you have to have accepted the rules in Discord, and you won't even be able to see the invite link anyway if you haven't. The classes are all invite only, so if you join, please do not share the link. We want to make sure that we have everybody who has agreed to the rules before they can go into the classroom. We have everybody use optimized avatars to reduce lag, and during class, we ask that everybody keep their mics off to make sure there's not any overt distraction. The example that was always used that one of our teachers used to always talk about is, if you're just like sipping a little drink or like eating a little chip, it doesn't really bother you, but then your mic picks it up and everybody knows that you're eating and everybody's all of a sudden hungry for a snack. And then we want to make sure we're not blocking line of sight to the teacher. We want to make sure everybody can see. It's a visual language. We need visual access to the teacher. So try and make sure if you're using a really big avatar, don't sit up front, sit in the back. If you're using a small avatar, go ahead and sit up front. We've had classes where I've walked in and seen a student sitting at our desk in our little world, and then they've had two little tiny itty bitty avatar students sitting on the desk in front of them. So whatever works, just as long as everybody can see. And then of course, golden rule, be respectful to everybody. We do have in our Discord, we have role system that uses, we have a VRC signer role that some people like to get and say, hey, I'm doing a lot of VR sign language. I've been coming to the classes. And we kind of track that with our attendance log that we have for classes and say, you're right, you have been. Let me give you the role in the Discord. That way you can actually kind of answer questions in the Discord. How far am I backing up? What was the last thing?
I forgot.
Okay. So we'll just do this. So attendance is tracked through the attendance log. And we can keep track of who's been coming here, and we can give them the VRC signer role in the Discord. That way, if people in the Discord are like, hey, I have a question about this, those VRC signers can answer and have that label to say, hey, I kind of know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this a while. Yes? Are we good? Are you?
I'm struggling.
Okay. Here. Take a break for a sec. I will simcom if that's okay with everybody. I will simcom help you get back into it. Good? Okay. So quick little blurb about our teachers. Again, I've mentioned many times they are fluent in the sign language that they are teaching. They are culturally competent. We require that they have good communication skills and professionalism to be able to represent our community. They are the ones who are teaching our students. They are the ones who are front facing with our students the most. We want to make sure that they have a good presence for those students. None of our teachers right now, actually, I lied. Most of our teachers right now are not actual certified real life teachers under any board or licensure. They have been picked by the Helping Hands staff with considerations from our Fluent members and our mods. We do have one, I believe, who is an actual teacher IRL. It is one of our LSF French Sign Language teachers. GETO, Ghetto. I can't remember the other letters in their name, but they are a real life LSF teacher, and they also now teach for us here in Helping Hands. So they are helping our other teachers to improve their teaching methods to be more in line with what a real life classroom would look like. All right. So when are we going to learn actual sign language? That's what we're here for, right? Let's do it. So we are going to start with the absolute basics. So I have a quick little list, but first, before we get to that, I'm going to show you the ASL alphabet to make sure that everybody knows the basics. If you're still struggling with it, if you need more help, then again, we have that list of those words that have posters in it to show you exactly how the hand shape looks and how to do it if you're on like general VR, which buttons to press to make that hand shape. So real quick before we get to this, I'm just going to show ABCs. If Emma doesn't mind, I'm going to have you show the general VR. I will show index. All right, so if you want to come here with me. Sorry, having problems with the movement. The joys of VR. Stick drift. Ready? All right, so A kind of looks the same, just your thumb out. B has that thumb in. On general VR, you have to use your other finger to put it here to show that the finger is in. C, this is where general VR has the advantage because they can just click it and goes to that hand shape. In index, we have to kind of try and curve our hands into a C shape. D is just one finger up. E, in real life, your thumb would be under these fingers here. We can't do that, so in VR, we put this other finger here. This is our VR adaptation. F, got these three fingers up. With general VR, we point and say this finger goes down here. All right. G is just one finger over to the side. H, really easy. You just add a second finger. All right. I is your pinky. For general VR, a lot of people will do a sideways rock and roll, or they will do I and point to it because they'll have the second finger up, so they'll point and say this one. So I. J is we're taking this I and moving it in a J pattern. All right. K is you take both your fingers straight up, but you bend your middle finger halfway to make a K. General VR typically takes the peace sign, and twists it kind of over to the side. L just looks like an L. Also, let me know if I skip a letter because I've done this before and I've skipped letters on accident. Everybody can do the alphabet quickly, but when you slow it down, you forget stuff. All right, M is one of our VR adaptations. In real life, your M would be, your thumb would be in your would be like closed into a fist, and it would be resting kind of in between your pinky and your ring finger. In VR, we can't do that. So we take two L hand shapes and make an actual M. And our N is just as wonderfully complicated, except we turn it into an N shape. In real life, the M, where your thumb would be in between your pinky ring finger would instead be between your ring finger and your middle finger. So N, L, M, N, O. See, I told you, I will forget. O is just kind of a O shape. In VR, kind of looks the same. In real life, you would actually have some space in between to show that it is an actual O shape. O. P is a K, but we go down. Q is a G, but we go down. And then R is, again, one of our wonderful VR adaptations. So in real life, you would have these two fingers, but they would be twisted together. In VR, that's how we show it, is we say, we have these two fingers, and they're twisted together. Some people twist, some people take it and say, we put it back here. I've seen some people who do the general VR where they just twist their whole hand. But regardless, in real life, they would be crossed. Here we can't. S. So in real life, S is your fist with your thumb in front of your fingers. In VR, we have this wonderful thing that we can't do. So we actually draw an S to accentuate and say, this is an S. We're making the S. Yeah. Making sure we're all on the same page. Okay. Yeah. S. All right. Next is T, which with our finger here for M, finger here for N, our T is in between the index and middle finger. But in VR, we can't do that. So we actually make a T shape. We do timeout. Timeout. All right. U and V both start with the same hand shape. In real life, you would have U as your fingers are together. In real life, V is your fingers apart. We can't do that here. I think Emma just accidentally clicked a seat over there. Hold on. Hold on. Technical difficulties. You good? I looked and you were gone. Yeah, all of a sudden was all the way over there. Yeah, it happens. Okay, we good? All right. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. It's fine. Something must have messed up. Technology went crazy and all of a sudden I went flying all the way over there. Yeah. Who knows? Okay. So again, real life, U would be your fingers together. V would be your fingers apart. In VR, we can't do that. So we do U where we actually show the shape of the U. And then V, we show the shape of the V. And depending on your speed, some people go very slow and very exaggerated, and some people go very fast. But the point is, like, the bottom is curved or pointy. That's basically the easiest way to tell the difference. Okay, U, V, W. In real life, it looks a lot more like this. This is still not perfect, though. I typically sign this in VR. But it's not exactly what it is in real life. In real life, your thumb and pinky would be touching. And you have this W shape here with the fingers. General VR uses the two L shapes to make a W. We're getting to the end of the alphabet. I'm struggling. Y. So Y is your pinky and thumb out.
X.
VR, general VR. X. Thank you. I told you I would forget. I forgot a letter. I'm sorry. Okay, X. Okay. So X is you take your index finger and we're just going to curl it. It's going to be kind of a 90-degree angle. General VR, you would take your finger and show, hey, I'm bending it this way. Okay. X. Y. Okay, Y. Now we're correctly on Y. General VR typically uses the rock and roll hand shape. But in real life and with index, you can use actual your thumb and pinky. And then, oh, yes. Some avatars in VR, their general VR predetermined hand shapes will have the Y hand shape. I believe Emma's changing into. There we go. So yeah, so some general VR, depending on the avatar you're in, can use a Y hand shape. Yes. So Y, and then Z, which we're taking our index finger and we're just drawing a letter Z. And that's the same for any system, Z. Cool. All right. Let me double check, make sure everything's good. All right. So I'm going to kind of move a little bit over here. So here I have these absolute basic signs that I'm going to be teaching real quick before we pass it over to Emma for the queer LGBTQIA signs. I've separated it here to have an English equivalent and the ASL how you would sign this. ASL has its own grammar structure. It is different than English, as you can probably notice from how the sentences on the right, you kind of understand what it's saying, but it's not proper English. It is not correct. It's because it is the written form of what you would sign in ASL grammar. However, we're going to start with the absolute basics. That is the exact same thing. So, hello. How do you think you sign hello in sign language? You wave. That's it. You just wave. Hello. Hello. That's it. Hello. I have too many people ask me, how do you say hello in sign language? That. Just seems like one of those common sense things that's just, I guess it's not that common sense. You literally just wave. The thing a lot of people ask after hello is, how are you? So in sign language, you don't sign the word are, you just say, how are you? And to do how, you have two hand shapes. It's your A hand shape. And you're going to take them and twist them past each other. How. And then you point to the person. How are you? I will also say that in sign language, specifically ASL, but I'm pretty sure it's general with any sign language, pointing is not rude. That is a cultural thing that we talk about, how we teach the culture aspects of it. Pointing is not considered rude in ASL. It's how you show who you're talking about or what you're talking about. So, how are you? How are they? How's this thing going? You point to it. I'm learning sign language. So, you point to yourself. And then learning is you take your open hand here. This is your book. And you're going to take that knowledge, you're going to pick it up and put it in your head. So I'm learning, I learn. And then sign language. So sign is you take those index fingers, those pointer fingers, and you move them in it doesn't matter clockwise, counterclockwise. You're moving them in a circle around each other in front of you. And then language, there's different ways to sign language. I'm going to teach the basic one. So it's with L hand shapes. They start right next to each other, and they kind of bounce up and down and go apart from each other. So language. So I am learning sign language. I learn sign language. All right. Next, my name is, and again, this is one of those things we do not sign the word is, we just say my name. So my is you're going to take an open hand, put it on your chest. This is how you show possession. So me is pointing to yourself. My is putting an open hand toward yourself. It's the same with you, is pointing to you, and your is pointing to you, but open hand, saying this is yours. This is them, theirs, he, his. So my name is we take two U hand shapes in real life, and they're going to tap on each other twice. Name. And then you would spell your name. So my name, S-H-A-D-E. Next, nice to meet you. So nice is we take two open hands. We're again putting this hand down as your base, and the other hand is going to slide across the top of it. So nice. To meet is we have these two people. They use the index fingers. They are coming together to meet. I will tell you the funny joke. Do not sign it another way, or it is going to look like you and another person are doing something else that we're not going to do here where they're like people watching. So meet. They are upright. They are facing each other. Okay? So nice to meet you. All right. Typically, a deaf person will ask, "Oh, are you deaf? Are you hearing? Are you hard of hearing?" So, what did I put on the list first? Hearing. So, hearing is we're going to take the one finger, the pointer finger, the D hand shape, whatever we want to call this. You're going to put it right in front of your mouth and move it in a circular fashion. Hearing. And then deaf, we're going to keep the same hand shape. We're going to put it to the side of the chin and to the ear. Deaf. It is asked constantly, does it matter? Do I start here? Do I start here? It does not matter. It's whatever flows with the sentence better. You can start at your ear and go down to your mouth. You can start at your mouth, go up to your ear. It does not matter. Chin, ear, chin, deaf. And then hard of hearing, which is another label that they have, is we're going to use our H hand shape and we're going to tap it twice. Hard of hearing. Hard of hearing. Our last one is that I play VR because that's what we're here for. That is what basically everybody here does. I don't know about the people watching at home, watching the stream. I don't know if you guys play VR, but everybody in here plays VR. So again, I pointing to ourselves. And then play is we're going to take our Y hand shapes right in front of you, and we're going to swing them back and forth. Play, play, play. And then VR is you're kind of showing a VR headset. So you're going to kind of take a C hand shape, and you're going to basically draw your VR headset on your face. VR. I play VR. All right. And again, so I just want to make sure we notice that, again, the actual ASL equivalents are not the exact same as the English. There is a different grammar structure, and that is the kind of thing that you guys can learn if you come and learn from us here at Helping Hands. We will teach you that and teach you proper ASL grammar, proper LSF grammar, DGS, KSL, JSL, BSL, all the different other grammar structures other than English that are intrinsic in these sign languages. I believe that's the last of mine, and I think now we're getting to the fun part, the reason you guys are here, to learn some queer signs. Make sure. Yes. All right. So I will take it over to Emma, who again is our expert. I will be voicing so we can learn from her. All right. So, very first thing we're starting forth is our gender identity. So, we're here at Trans Academy. So, of course, our first word is transgender. So, that word is going to be signed right on your chest. It's going to start with an open hand and is going to come forward into a closed hand. It's going to come forward and turn into a closed hand. Yes, here. Maybe I'll do it this way. I'll stand with you so I can show the index version as well. So transgender. Yep, and we're showing right here on index, transgender, open to closed hand. This sign is actually really interesting because it is related with your heart. It is showing your heart and showing this friendship that comes from it. Did Amma crash or did I crash?
You crashed.
You're good.
I
It's
crashed.
Emma. It's Emma. No?
Emma
All right.
It's Emma. It's Emma
Okay.
Shade. Don't worry.
All right. I will give it a minute to see if she comes back. I hope it doesn't take too long, or I will start telling knock knock jokes. That will not be fun. I just got a message from her saying she crashed. Hold on one moment, please. Sorry for those of you at home. We're having some technical difficulties here. If you don't mind, you can go get some snacks from the lobby, anything like that. Okay. Hold on, let me open up my. Yep, okay. Hopefully she'll be right back.
What am I asking you?
Yeah, sure, why not? Dionysus. Oh, hold on. Okay. Yeah, come on up here if you don't mind while you're asking the question. That way the camera can see you too. All right, hello. All right, I have a question about the sign for transgender. Okay. Yes. So in real life, is the sign based off the sign of beautiful? Yes. So again, there's so many things about it that Amma has done extensive research about all the etymology of the signs. So I will totally leave it to her to explain. But yes, it is like the sign for transgender has so many deeper meanings to it. About it is your heart. It is about being beautiful, about having a beautiful soul, about having something that's within you that is changed, something that's different. Something about I think there's something about your soul in there. There's a lot of different reasons about why that sign is the way it is. Are we good, Emma? I'm very sorry if you are crashed. All right. Cool. Thank you for your question. Oh, gotta get it. Well, again, getting everything set up. 1 second. All good? Cool. Think we're good. So we just finished transgender and then ready for the next one. All right, sorry. Excuse me, everybody. I'm so sorry. My apologies to everybody. VR completely crashed on me, and I was stuck. I'm stuck using this old system. I have an old VR headset right now, so hopefully I'll be able to get a new VR later. But for now, yeah, I'm gonna on the old system, and I'll just have to keep on going as I am. All right. So the next word, cisgender, doesn't actually really have a sign. So it's just the first three letters. You typically sign CIS. You just spell it out, CIS. Again, showing the sign for it, CIS. Next word we have on here. So identity is where we're going to use our I hand and an open hand. And this I is going to come out. Gosh, I can't do it with controllers. This is going to come out and kind of touch on here. As this is the front face of your hand. So an open eye that comes here and it touches on your open hand. And I'm sure everybody knows what identity means. It is who you are. It is who and what you are that you show to the world. So this is your identity, what you're showing to yourself. Um, Gender does not have a sign. It is just spelled out right now. But you would be able to spell out the word gender and then sign identity. Next word we have is expression. So this sign comes from the idea that it is something that is inside of you, your thoughts, your feelings, and something that you bring out to you. So it's going to use these closed hands. It's going to start with these closed hands, the stuff that is inside of you, and it's going to come forward and open up as something that's coming out. The things that are in you coming out. Your feelings, your thoughts coming out. So next we have mask, masculine. This one has 3 different signs that are typically used. The first one is pretty common. This one uses this hand shape and is on the chest, kind of like a typical mask person, kind of showboating, I guess. So an S hand on the side of your chest, on your shoulder, kind of bouncing off of it. The second sign that is commonly used is where you're going to use both hands are going to be in fists, and it's kind of about flexing, so it's strong, fuerte, mask. That one's not really commonly used, but it is a sign that is out there. So it's something that, it's kind of a thing that is typically related with a masculine identity, is that strength and that flexing. So that is one of the signs that's used for mask. It is kind of declined in popularity, but it's still there. Yeah, just depends on the person on what they prefer to use. So we have this version of mask, and this version of mask. And then the third version, oops, sorry, one sec. Oh, no, I think I invented the third one in my head. I'm only all of a sudden thinking there's only 2 signs. So I think, yeah, just 2 for that one. Okay, femme, or feminine. So the sign for this one is you're going to use an F hand shape. And we're going to kind of go forward in circular motions. So this sign is typically kind of like more chill. It really kind of depends on the person if they want to use this sign. I know that this sign is quite often used, but there's some people who may have a different sign for it. I have a different sign for that I use in my area. So I typically use, it's an F hand on the chin, like the sign for girl, but with an F, femme. Okay, yeah, so that is, again, this is part of their like regional differences, is my sign and Emma's sign can be different. They can both be right, but they can be completely different. So my sign here in my area, we sign femme. Okay. Yeah, depends on the person. Depends on what they want to use. But you can use the F going forward or the F on the chin, on the side of the chin. Either one. All right, gender fluid. So this one also has two common signs. The first one is kind of like the sign for spectrum. So the sign, you take a base hand. They both start with your open hands, and your base hand will be out in front of you. Your other hand will go back and forth and kind of wiggle your fingers, basically, to say it's all of these things in between here. You've got this end of the spectrum all the way to this end of the spectrum, and it goes back and forth. All right. The second common sign for that one is you're going to use D hand shapes. Nope, sorry, X hand shapes. Okay. So we're going to use X hand shapes, and they're going to be locked together and then twist on each other. Gender fluid. This is also the sign for change. So changing back and forth. Makes sense. So yeah, we're over here, and then we change to this, and then we change to this, and we change to this. Some people maybe have, a couple of different identities that they use. Flip between them, go to whatever they're feeling in the moment, and decide they're going to use this gender identity and this gender expression one day and use a different one another. And they, change back and forth. So that sign is something that can be used for gender fluid. Along with the first sign that we showed, which is spectrum, something that is moving back and forth between or two or any amount of points on a spectrum. Yep. All right. So spectrum or change, either one, both can mean gender fluid. So really, non-binary, that word currently does not have an official sign. In real life, there has been lots of discussion about it. There used to be people would sign NB, but now it has changed to signing the letters ENBY. So I typically spell it kind of like, how you would voice it. A lot of people would say NB as the letters. It sounds like ENBY. So the sign has become ENBY as a more common version. There's no official dedicated sign, but that is what somebody like myself who identifies as non-binary, this is the sign that I typically use. And then we have our last word on this list for intersex. So in VR, we're going to use this. We're going to use our I hand or the Y hand, rock and roll hand, whatever you've got if you're on general VR. It's going to start facing forward and then come down to an X hand shape in front of you. So starts as an I, comes down to an X. So intersex. So I to X. Sorry, deal with controller issues. So this is one that is, it's kind of like a biological concept, and it's having more than the normal chromosomes. Like instead of just having XY, having like XXY or any of those kind of combinations, they have what is typically perceived as more than just the normal sex characteristics. It's kind of hard for me to explain because I'm not intersex myself. I don't really know the full science about it. It's not my identity, but I believe it's be better to taught from a person who is actually born intersex, has that identity, and would be able to explain that a lot better. But as for the sign for it, I can show you that much at least. All right. Moving on away from our gender identities, moving on to our sexualities. All right. So, very first one up on here. We have our LGBTQIA plus list. So the very first one is L. That's why it's on the list first. So we're starting with an L. You actually start, this is how you sign it. And you're going to take it and you're going to take the tip of your index finger and tap it to your chin. Lesbian takes tap index finger, tap it to the bottom of your chin. Be careful with this sign. You don't want to sign it where the part that's touching your chin is over here in the middle. That is not the correct sign anymore, so please be careful about using that sign. It is over here, using it on the very tip of the index, touching your chin. Some people will be offended if you use the other sign, the older sign that has gone out of favor and has been replaced with touching the L on the finger. For gay, there was a sign back in the day. It is also now kind of fallen out of favor and been taken over by spelling out G-A-Y, just kind of because it flows, so G-A-Y. It's a very, very smooth spelling from an ASL standpoint, so it's taken over as G-A-Y. In VR, if you have a general VR headset, you still can sign this one pretty well. Even if it ends up being a rock and roll hand, it's still something that flows very, very easy. Next letter is B for bisexual. So this is one that's typically, we just use the letters for it, kind of like you would use in real life. So the letters are B-I. Just B-I. Whoops, sorry for jumping. B-I. If you have general VR, you kind of have to modify it, but B-I. I took the T off, I took the T off because we already had it over here. So the next letter is Q. So Q for queer, there's quite a few different signs for this. I believe 3 signs that we're going to teach right now. 2 are pretty common, so we'll start with that. So the first one is based on the sign for rainbow, which starts over here is open 5 hands, open hands. We're going to start over here and kind of draw a rainbow in the air. Like all the little beams of light. Rainbow. Yeah. After it rains, after the gloomy time, you get to see the beautiful rainbow in the sky. All the different bright, shiny particles coming off of it like an anime. All the beautiful colors. The second sign is pretty close whenever we're talking about queer. So we're going to put a person. Here's our person. Very good. So this is our person marker saying that this is a person who has a rainbow coming off of them. So again, we just have our index finger and then the rainbow coming off of them. Good so far? All right. In real life, you can also use the Q hand shape and start here on the chin and go down. Kind of twist it as you come down toward your chest. Kind of spirals down, turns. And again, this is kind of showing you have a person here. This is your person who has had something changed inside of them. This actually started in Canada. That is where that sign became popular and showed up first. But you can use that same sign here in America. That's still a sign that is acceptable. So, queer. However, the most common signs are the ones that use the rainbow, either the full rainbow or the person with the rainbow. Next, we have pansexual, the next letter, P. So, one of the signs that you use for that is just pan. As a pansexual person, I can show that that's my identity. So we got a couple of different actual signs for that. First one is you got your middle finger down. And we're going to kind of twist it and have it come tap at the heart. And in general VR, you would point to that middle finger, say, hey, it's bent down this way, and then make the motion. So, and it's about, the heart, caring about the heart. Yeah, about being able to love anybody regardless of, their gender identity, anywhere on the spectrum, gender fluid, any point on the spectrum of anything, just caring about their heart and caring about who they are as a person, not really caring so much and having any preference for any specific gender. The second sign that you have, we're going to have open hands that then go to closed hands. So they're going to be open and they're going to come close again over the heart. That sign is not very common. Most people typically use the one with the middle finger down that comes in and taps the heart. Like myself, I'm a deaf pansexual person, and this is a sign that I typically use and identify with. Next, we have demisexual, or just demi. This one doesn't really have a sign. This one's actually just spelled out as DEMI. Ace, basically the same thing. It does not have an actual sign, so it is spelled out as asexual, ASUXUAL, but a lot of people use that wonderful 3-letter abbreviation and just do ACE. So you can sign ACE. ACE. Next, aromantic. So this one is still kind of not used enough to have an established sign yet. So this one is still kind of just spelled out. There's a joke about, here's Cupid's arrow that's just kind of not really doing anything. Yeah. And then the last one that we have is straight. Have that on our list. So this one is going to use a B hand shape. And it is going to start right here, right in front of your face, kind of like right at the nose, mouth area, and then just go straight forward. Go straight. You know, that's the one who, you know, is a person who is attracted to a person of the opposite gender. Kind of the standard norm. What is it? Yeah. All right, cool. Next slide. Let me go over here and click that for her. All right. So, we're going to try and get some of these signs out a little quicker. Now that we've gotten to the more just ran a little bit for everybody. So, transitioning is we're going to take our two fingers and then bend them forward. So it's kind of like a double X hand shape. It's going to start over on one side and transfer over to the other one. Transition. So transitioning. Basically goes from one side moving over to the other. Very common in the trans identity of the actual transitioning, going from one to another. Next, we have pride, which we're going to start with our A hand shape. That thumb out. That thumb is going to start kind of down middle of the chest, stomach area, and go up along your chest, kind of drawing yourself up, standing tall, head up. Pride. You know, the facial expression is important in this to show that you are proud, you have that pride in who you are. You know, the face kind of looks up as well. Again, holding your chin high. Yeah, and you can also use this in general, being proud of yourself, you know. Ally. So we have two common signs that are used for that one. The first one is going to use closed fists. We're going to have this, your non-dominant hand kind of be there. Your other hand is going to come up and support it. So it is providing support. It'll typically will tap twice. Yes, 2 times. And the second sign that is typically used . Oh, okay. Let's see how I can do this with my controllers in the hand. So this sign is typically used in real life a lot of times. It is kind of two hands coming together and like grasping onto each other. Like kind of like a partnership type of thing. One of those ones it's kind of hard to explain in VR, kind of hard to show in VR. Two hands that are kind of already in C hand shapes coming together and then clasping each other. General VR, you kind of just stick with the C hand shapes and do your best. But you know, this is like one person coming to support another one, showing solidarity. You know, saying that we're in this together, you know. Our next sign. Oh. I think somebody clicked a button. Hold, please. Hold for applause. No. I mean, at least this time she didn't like completely crash. Yet. Hey, don't jinx it.
Don't put that
You jinxed it. You jinxed it, Alec. For you watching the stream at home, we have a heckler in the audience. One of our very common students immediately said 2 seconds before, "Oh no, they haven't crashed yet." They crashed. We'll wait for a second for them to come back.
Your mic is like fucked up.
Oh, that's timing. Oh my.
Right. For the sake of time, for a couple of these signs, I can go ahead and try and show my signs for it. Hey, Polly, can you get on the stage again and show the general VR versions for me? Cool, awesome. Okay. All right. So I'll be doing index. I'll have Polly up there showing the general VR versions of this. So coming out, there are many signs for this. The one I typically like to use is coming out, and it is kind of like you're taking your hands here and revealing yourself. I think of it as Superman. It's like revealing, oh yes, I'm Superman. It is revealing who you are on the inside. So I like coming out. There is another sign of coming out is you're going to take your fist here as kind of like a C closed hand shape, and this is you that's been hiding in here this whole time, and you are finally coming out. So you can do coming out. The point is you're coming out of your shell that you're hiding in. There's one where you have your open hand in front of you, and you again have yourself, your person that is hiding behind, that is now coming out and showing themselves. Coming out. There is coming out as I am announcing it to everybody. I am telling everybody. So coming out. There is coming out as, again, this is my person and I've had something that I'm hiding and I'm taking it off. Oh. Emma's back and she's in desktop. Did you message me? VR died. VR died. I will wrap up. You did the important words. We are very thankful for you. I really apologize. I kept running into issues. This is a first. She's typing out in her chat box. It's fine. Again, we have like the last little bit. Thank you again for all the help that you've done. I
can interpret the outro.
Cool. I'll have him interpret that. All right. So coming out again, there are many signs. The one I typically use is coming out, coming out, coming out, coming out. There are 1,000,000,001 signs for that one. So, if you find somebody and they say, oh, this is the sign I learned for coming out, they're probably right, just because there's so many of them. Closeted is kind of the opposite of coming out. So this is one where you're still hiding. So closeted, you can be, I'm not yet coming out. I am still here. Closeted, I am still behind the door. I am still closeted. I'm still in my little turtle shell. Closeted, you can say announced, not yet. I have not yet announced, so I'm still closeted. Again, many different signs, many different versions. Flag, because we all love our flags. I know I do. I have. You know what I just realized? Oh my god. I just realized, like, after Emma's VR crashed, I realized my full body crashed. Oh well. So at least I'm still here mostly. Anyway, so we all love our flags. I have my pride flag hanging up in my bedroom. I'm sure eventually I want to get a flag that I can actually hang on my house. I know the Trans Academy has the trans flag as their banner. So everybody, we all love our flags. So our flag, the sign for flag, is based on what a flag looks like. So you have here, you have your flag pole, and then you're going to take your other hand here, going to wave on the flag. This is our flag. Rainbow, we kind of already talked about it when we did our queer sign. So again, we start here with our hand and we make all the pretty rainbow colors in the sky. Rainbow. See. LGBTQ+. So this is one that again kind of has like a couple of different signs. I, as a person, as a queer person myself, I love using the word queer. That is what I like to identify as. I spent a good chunk of my adult life identifying just as gay, and then I realized I really like the identity of queer. So whenever I sign LGBTQIA, I sign queer. I sign this is a person who has the whole rainbow coming off of them. You can also spell out the actual letters LGBTQIA plus. There's another sign that I've seen used where you take an L hand shape, and this is basically like it starts as an L, a Q, and it makes into a rainbow.
Can you show that?
L Q L Q. I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. L and L sign like a rainbow. There you go. Emma is correcting me because again, she is the expert. So L to L. Here we go. We're making the rainbow. This is all the different letters. Polly, I think you're not muted. Can you? Sorry, I'm standing close enough that I'm getting echo. Cool. All right. What have we got next? Non-conforming. So for me, you might have to help me with this sign. I typically sign not conforming, like it's not matching. Yep. Not matching. So not matching. So match is you're going to take these hands. They're kind of like A's, but they're open. In real life, your fingers would actually be a little spread, and you're going to come together, and your fingers would actually interlock at the knuckles. In VR, we just kind of do our best, but in real life, the fingers would actually interlock. And for non-conforming, I could actually sign the word not, which is a hand where the thumb touches underneath your chin. Say non-conforming, non-matching, or I could just say matching while shaking my head no. So non-conforming. So that's the sign I use. Drag queen and drag king. So drag is a wonderful, amazing performance art. So the signs, of course, are just as wonderfully fabulous. Yes. So drag king, typically they put on the mustaches. So we start here and we kind of like show that we have the mustache and we pull it out and go up. Drag king. So we're going up. We're twirling that wonderfully long, fancy French handlebar mustache. Because drag kings are fabulous, right? And then we have drag queen. Oh, I just realized I did these backwards. Drag queen has the wonderful, amazing wig. So we take the wig and kind of show the shape of it. It starts here kind of as a C hand and twists down. So here we've got the wonderful curls. Depending on the drag queen, if we're talking like Lady Bunny, you can have drag queen. You can have drag queen like all the way down to the floor. It really just depends on what the drag queen looks like. So again, drag king, drag queen, very iconic signs. Romantic and romance. So romance is typically signed with I love you. And these signs are going to come together and kind of rub on each other, kind of spin in little circles toward each other. Yes. So it's like this person, I love you. This person, I love you. No, I love you more. No, I love you more. That's how I remember it. So loving each other very, very much. Then we have sexuality and attraction. So this is one I typically sign attraction. So this is a person and I am very interested in them. I start as my whole face is like drawn into it. There's also the sign of attraction as a preference. So you take that middle finger, bend it down, and that middle finger is going to tap on your chin twice. All right. Cool. All right. And then our last sign that we're going to teach you guys. Is that you are all loved. My wonderful Trans Academy partners, everybody who's here from Helping Hands, everybody who's watching on the stream. Especially, I mean, Helping Hands members has quite the overlap too, but as trans people, we're all here. We deal with so much hate in our lives of people who are against us. I'm speaking, unfortunately, just as a queer person, not as a trans person, but I understand. I feel the struggle. And I know sometimes life just sucks. And it's so amazing when you get to find a community that accepts you, has the same experiences as you, and that you can feel safe in. I want you to make sure you all know that you are loved. So, the way I sign this is you are loved. I love you. You are loved. You are loved. You can also sign you. We're going to take our hands and we're going to give ourselves a big hug. You are loved. Thank you guys so much for letting me come present. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming and presenting with me and being our expert on all things trans, queer, everything. Thank you so much for Trans Academy, who have been running all the things. I know Trix is over there running, I think, the back end side of the Discord and everything and the actual event. I believe Captain is behind the stage, currently running our Twitch stream. Thank you to our wonderful liaison, who is unfortunately not here right now because they are on a meetup. I believe they're on a meetup with other Trans Academy people right now. Shaw War Machine, who is a staff member both for Helping Hands and Trans Academy. And just thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being a part of this. We appreciate you. And again, you're loved. Thank you.